This is Office Talk with Annette Stepanian. Hey guys, I'm back with another episode, and in today's interview, I'm talking to Nagina Abdullah. And I know a lot of you guys are doing the side hustle thing. You guys have maybe a full-time job, you are a parent, you have kids, you also on the side are trying to launch or grow your business. So talk about having a lot on one plate. Now, Nagina can totally relate to this because she was in that position a few years ago where she was working as a full-time marketing consultant that required a lot of travel. She had recently had her second child and really wanted to lose some of that baby weight. And basically her weight loss journey turned into what is now an amazing online business. So this is a really cool episode because we're talking all about business, all about launching, all about failures that we, experience in business. And we talk about losing weight. We talk about all that fun stuff. So I'm hoping you'll enjoy this episode. And with that said, let's go to the show. Hey, Nagina, thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks. I'm so excited to be here, Annette.
There's so much I want to talk to you about because there's getting healthy, getting in shape, learning how you're balancing family and an online business and a full-time job and online launching, all that stuff. So before we dive in, can you bring our listeners up to speed about who you are and what you do?
My name is Nagina Abdullah, and I'm the ultimate weight loss coach for busy, ambitious women and the founder of masalabody.com. I help women lose weight through my program spiceyourselfskinny.com, which is an 8-week weight loss program. And I also have private clients as well, which is how I started my business in private one-on-one coaching. And then one thing to mention is that I do this on the side. So I've been working on this business for 3 years, and I've made some changes in my professional life to allow me more time to grow this, which I see definitely to be my future more than my corporate job.
That's so great to hear because I know a lot of folks who are listening are doing what I call the side hustle, right? They are working full time. They are building their passion business on the side. And, everyone's overwhelmed as if having a full-time job wasn't hard enough, growing a business on the side, and then having a family on top of that. It's like you have 3 full-time jobs right there. So can you take us back to, 3 years ago, kind of where were you at? What really prompted you to take this journey?
Absolutely. There were 2 things that happened. One is that I had recently had 2 kids. So I had, like most new mothers, I had a lot of extra weight on my body that I needed to lose. And I had actually struggled with my weight my whole life. So I was kind of having some anxiety about if I'd be able to do it or not. But I also worked in a very demanding career, which was I traveled for work. I was a management consultant, and I traveled every single week for 4 days and 3 nights. And I just didn't know how I was going to have the energy to do that when I went back to work after maternity leave. And then also how I was going to fit into my work clothes, which I didn't want to buy a whole new wardrobe because my clothes were nice and they them. Yes, I spent a lot of money on them. I don't want to buy a whole new wardrobe. So I actually figured out I needed to try something new. So I started following the 4-Hour Body by Tim Ferriss, where he encourages eating high protein foods and slow carbs, not zero carbs. They're called slow carbs. They're certain kinds of foods that give you energy for a long time. And I integrated that with fat burning spices that I grew up with. And I grew up in a traditional Indian family where we used flavors and spices. And so I started mixing these foods with that. And the first month I lost 10 pounds, and over 9 months I lost 40 pounds. And it was so crazy because I got down to 20 pounds below my pre-pregnancy weight. And the whole time I loved what I was eating. It was so delicious and filling. So everyone around me started asking me what I was doing. And I just started sharing my recipes with everyone. And I soon realized I need to maybe I'll start a blog about this. So I started to do the blog, but meanwhile, I also was aware of what was possible online. So I knew that there was a way that I didn't know exactly how, but I knew that there was a way that I could grow a business. And at this time I had 2 kids. So this travel schedule, I knew it was going to get old quick. I knew I just couldn't keep on doing it like before I had kids where it didn't matter if I was gone. So I started thinking like, I really need to create some kind of situation for myself where I can be that mom I want to be, but also be the professional, ambitious woman that's like in my heart. Like, I don't want to give that up. So I started this blog sharing my recipes, and, you know, a lot of it, like the way I positioned my blog, we could talk about that a little bit because it really helped me to get a big audience like right away. So I started this blog. It was a weight loss, like a food for weight loss blog. And then soon I heard from someone that they wanted me to coach them. And so I found out about a premium coaching model where I could actually coach someone for results, not coach someone for time that they spend with me. And I was able to make a 4-figure offering to her, and she accepted. And then I brought more clients on, and I was able to do this on the side because it was one-on-one clients. And I only took on like what I could do with my job. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of how I started. It's really a result of like my own transformation, realizing that there was an interest in what I went through and wanting to create a flexible life for my future self with the family.
Yeah, and I find that that's what so many people want to do, right? Is this business is really, it's not just about the money. It's about something more than that. It's about whether it's a passion, whether it's about creating that freedom and that flexibility. And I love to hear that it's so possible, and just seeing you and the way you've been able to design basically a life and business on your terms. I want to go back. You said, you know, you created this blog. You knew you had this idea. I mean, who doesn't want to lose a few pounds and do it while they're enjoying the process? So you knew you were onto something, and you said you created this blog and you positioned it in a certain way that was able to grow your list and the engagement pretty quickly. What was that?
Okay, so when I first had the idea, I really thought that like the thing that was transformative for me in the process, like that I thought was that the food that I was eating, it was so flavorful and it was so delicious. So I was just thinking that what I was going to offer was like flavorful, delicious, healthy recipes. And for example, when I first put up the first version of my website, it had a picture of like I have the spicy garbanzo bean curry, which is really tasty and really easy to make. And I put that on my blog, and I mean, I had a couple people look at it and they were like, that looks cool, you know, but they weren't excited about it. So then I changed it. And this is definitely through getting input from people who had already started online businesses. Like I joined a training course and I got input from my training course. And they said that, you know, you really need to make this more about the results. Like, why do people want to eat healthy food? Yes, it tastes good, but what's the point of eating healthy food? Well, usually the point of eating healthy food is to lose weight. So you really have to talk about the losing weight part. So I changed my positioning to go from healthy recipes to I lost 40 pounds using these recipes. Grab them for free by giving me your email list. And that changed everything, because that is just like, if someone is in the position of wanting to lose weight, they would definitely want those recipes because it will help them lose weight. So the first day the way that I shared my website the first day was just on my personal Facebook page. And I said, like, I lost 40 pounds using these spices, grab my free recipe book. And I just had like 6 or 7 recipes in my free recipe book. And I got 101 subscribers in 1 week. From
oh my goodness. And you didn't advertise it. It was just a post that just went naturally, got shared.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I didn't know how to do Facebook ads at that time or anything like that. So it was just like and then people were sharing it with their friends. They're like, look at my cousin and look at my friend and all these things. And so and it's like, once you get to 100 subscribers, then you know you have an idea that clicks. You have an idea that works. Like, that's the benchmark that I have learned. So at that point, then you can really know that you have something, and you can start thinking about like, maybe, you know, what's next for this.
Yeah. And I think you make a great point. I think you always want to think about, and we've talked about this in past episodes, of like, what's in it for the other person, right? And like, what problem are you solving? And there's this saying of, you know, most people want save time, make more money, you know, look great. Like, there's just a few things that people really want. And if you could position it in that way where you're saying, what is the value proposition for them? It's going to get more engagement. And I think I heard some crazy statistics nowadays that like people's attention span is less than or about equal to a goldfish. It's like 8 seconds. So you want to get to the point ASAP with your copy or with your opt-in. So totally makes sense. I mean, even just the way you phrase it, I was like, ooh, I want that. I want those recipes. Total side note, what's your favorite seasoning?
Oh, okay. So I love that question. My favorite seasoning is turmeric.
Yeah.
And turmeric, first of all, it doesn't really taste like anything. It's a little intimidating to look at because it's like really bright golden yellow.
And it gets everywhere.
Yes, exactly. And it gets everywhere. So you don't want to have like yellow on your hands or yellow on your teeth or anything like that. That's what it seems like. So it feels a little intimidating, but first of all, the benefits are so incredible. Like it is known for, and literally like doctors prescribe turmeric for reducing inflammation. And so inflammation is in your joints, but it's also like throughout your body. Like you could have inflammation in your belly. And that's a lot of the reason that like some women's bellies, like, you know, a lot of us, it's like it comes out a little bit.
We have a little pooch.
Yeah, it's like there's inflammation in there. It's not necessarily the fat. Exactly. It's like getting that pooch down is about the inflammation. And then it also actually has been proven to block new fat formation when you're eating turmeric. So I love turmeric, and I love to add it to my eggs because eggs are yellow anyway. So I add like a half teaspoon into my morning eggs, and then you can't even tell that it's in there, and you're getting all those benefits. And my husband actually started using turmeric regularly. He started making turmeric tea at night where he just boils water with turmeric and ginger, and his skin started clearing up. Like I didn't even realize he had like a skin problem, but he had like some circles under his eyes that just disappeared. And it just like, it's so good for your whole body. And it's so simple to just put into anything. Like I also just add a drop into my, like a teaspoon into my smoothies because you can't taste it. So you just get benefits.
Yeah, it's interesting because I'm Armenian. So I grew up with a lot of spices and flavors as well. And I always tell my husband, like, it's really about the seasoning, you know, like you could have the most bland, you know, I mean, just basic thing. But then if you know what seasoning and how to like marinate something, that's where you really dress it up and can make something so bland like chicken breast taste delicious. So.
So true. Because I know it's like, so, and for healthy food, that's the whole thing. A lot of us think that it has to be super boring and you have to eat chicken breast and broccoli all the time. But when you're adding spices like cumin, coriander, turmeric, you know, to it, it just seems like a gourmet meal. And it also has weight loss benefits when you're eating those spices.
Yeah. So. I love dried mint. I know it's not really a spice, but I put it on everything. I just went and I bought a whole bunch of bags. I was just down in LA and they go to like the Armenian store and I buy them in like big bags of dried mint. So,
and what do you use? What do you use it on?
You know, like I put it on couscous. I put it in my salads. I put it like pretty much on everything. I love it.
Oh my God.
So I don't know if it has any health benefits, but I figure it can't hurt. So,
well, that sounds really good. Well, fresh mint, the smell of it has been proven to decrease overeating and to curb sugar cravings. That's like the fresh one, but regular mint, that's still great. That's still, and if there's still a smell to it, you still get some benefits.
That's interesting. We always put fresh mint in our salads too. So that's good to know because I love sugar and I overeat a lot. So my husband's like, I've never met anybody who eats so much sugar. I'm like, yep. Okay. So going back to your business. So, you know, I'm also curious. So how did you manage to do all of this while you were working? And I know, I mean, being a lawyer, I had so many folks and friends who were in consulting. That's so demanding, as you said, you know, with the travel schedule and all that. How do you find the time and the energy to basically build a whole new business on the side?
So when I started, like it didn't happen overnight. I mean, it's been that I've been working towards my own business for for some time. In the beginning of this 3 years, what I did is like, I just really probably dedicated about 3 to 5 hours a week. And it's like almost anyone can find 3 to 5 hours a week. Like what it meant for me is that I didn't watch as much TV. And on the weekend, I was a little more efficient with my time, especially in the morning when I felt like I had some clarity. So I would just spend 3 to 5 hours a week. Like in the beginning, I was doing tasks like researching my idea, talking to people, you know, figuring out that the recipes are not going to really be that interesting. It's more about the weight loss. And then So it's like everything was like a mini project that I was working towards. And then I started like, just writing blog posts in the beginning. So I would spend the week like just writing 2 blog posts and put them on my blog. So pretty soon, once I got my idea down, then it was like after a month or 2 after that, I already had like 5 or 6 blog posts up. So that was good. And then I started reaching out to other people to have them, because I wanted to guest post so that I could bring people to my website. So that took time. That was like another mini project. So I did all these mini projects, but they were all directed towards one thing, and that was growing my business. But I tried to break it down in these small steps and do whatever I could in 3 to 5 hours a week. And so, a lot of times I would also find the time, like while I was traveling, when I would be on the plane, I would try to finish all my client work so that I had that time on the plane when like no one was looking at my computer. So I could just do my own thing, because I couldn't do it at work. So no one's like staring at my screen from work, so I can just work on my own thing. And then sometimes I do it in my hotel room at night. So those are a few ways I got those 3 to 5 hours. And then over time, I wanted more than that. So I would actually use vacation from my work. And thankfully, I had a good vacation policy where I was able to take some extra, like take the vacation I wanted to. So I would take a week, or sometimes one time I took 2 weeks off and I didn't go anywhere. It was a staycation and I just stayed at home and I just researched. I wrote blog posts. I wrote like a mini recipe book, and not a long recipe book. Like it was really short, but it was something that I could give away. I got so much done in 2 weeks. And so that was kind of like another way. It's like, how can you create like larger amounts of time? So that's what I did, before. And then just to like show you how it's evolved, once I got to 1,000 subscribers and I started selling my coaching program, that's when I realized that I really had something and I really saw a future in this. And I really didn't think that I could continue my consulting job either. It was like, I just didn't think that lifestyle was going to totally work for me, because it was throwing our family out of balance for me to be working so much with 2 kids. So I made a commitment. I just made a commitment. I said, you know what? I'm going to continue to grow this business, but I do need the paycheck from my corporate job. So I worked with my job and I was able to find a flexible, what is called an internal position where I don't do client work anymore. I do like business development, and I had a flexible schedule so I could work from home. Like I still have to be working, but I didn't have to be traveling anywhere every day. And then that allowed me more time because I didn't have to commute. And so that's definitely something that took some time. Like I didn't do that for like a year or like a year and a half until after I had put up my website and saw, and then I saw that I was getting an audience. But then I just had to really make that commitment and say, look, I'm going to grow this business, but I still need to work. I can't make the jump because it's too risky.
Yeah, there's so much good stuff in there. When did you start kind of monetizing it? I know you said early on you had a few people who wanted to coach, but was the strategy there like, let me just grow my audience, let me just give out great content to get an engaged audience? Or was it pretty early on, you're like, I'm going to package something up and try and sell to them?
Yeah, it was the first one. I really was very diligent about growing my audience. When I started, I didn't have any idea what I was going to sell. I didn't know what I was going to do. And that's part of what I was doing as I was growing my audience is I was growing my audience. And along the way, I was also continuing to research my audience. And when I created an audience, I also created a very specific audience. So my audience is busy, ambitious women. And so because that's what I am, and I lost weight living like that. So I knew I could help other women like that. So I was always writing specifically to busy, ambitious women and talking about like our issues that we have, like healthy while travel, healthy after working a full day, healthy when you're eating out. I would do like specific topics. And then I kept like talking to other women to find out what their needs are, what their pain points are. And then I also did like a lot of research online to create my new product. So I did it 6 months later. So 6 months after I had my website up, I created my first product, which was a coaching program. And the way I created my coaching program also is like, I did a lot of research online, like specifically on Amazon. I looked at like diet books and lots of things that like people who are trying to lose weight are reading. And I read the reviews. It turns out like what I read is that people liked a lot of the diet books, but they needed a structure and they needed a plan to actually lose weight. So when I had my coaching program, I offered my coaching services, like talking to them regularly. But then I also created a structured plan where every week I would send them like a menu plan, a grocery list, and recipes, and then also an eating out guide. So they'd know exactly what to do. They didn't need to think, because that was exactly what my niche needed. So that's why I needed time to like grow my audience, so that once I had a product, people would sign up for it. And then also I needed time to like research what my audience wanted.
Correct. Yeah, I love that, because it's from, the different conversations we've been having, you kept reiterating, I kept talking to them, I kept researching, I kept trying to understand what the problem was, and so I think that's really important. And it's doing the Amazon stuff, doing the online research, that's genius, but also just getting on the phone and talking to people. I think people are sometimes hesitant to do that, but that's what you need to do. You need to get out and actually hear it in their own words, so that you understand how they phrase the problem, how, what is it, like you would have never have thought like, okay, they needed structured, right? You had the content there, but you just needed to assemble it in a certain way. But it wasn't until you took that proactive step to do the research, that was an opportunity there for you to create a product in a way that would resonate with them, even though the content was already still there from day one, right? You just needed to organize it in a different way.
Yeah. And I love how you said just understanding the actual words and the actual language they were using, because that's exactly what it was. And that makes all the difference. And I would this topic, it's so interesting to me. I want to talk about it all the time. And I feel like it's also important to do something that you want to talk about, that you actually like. And really with women, a lot of us, we talk about losing weight. That's just a topic that naturally comes up, or we talk about healthy foods or things like that. So I would actually make a point to bring that subject up. Even with my girlfriends, I would just go to dinner or drinks with them. And it was a fun topic for me, so it didn't even feel like work. But I would say things like, do you guys ever get late night cravings? Does that ever happen to you? What do you guys eat? And they would just go crazy answering that question. They're like, oh my God, I love this Haagen-Dazs ice cream. I can't live without it. I made my husband go and get it for me in the middle of the night, and all these things. So it's so fun. And then I remember I had drinks, and someone told me those exact things. And when I left, I was actually having a conversation just to have it. It was really fun for me as well. But when I left, I wrote down every single thing they said on my phone in my notes app. I wrote Haagen-Dazs caramel cone ice cream. And then the next week, I actually put that in my blog post. I said, have you ever been at home and you crave Haagen-Dazs caramel cone ice cream, which I researched and found out is the #1 selling ice cream for women. So
really?
Yeah. Yes. So I'm like, oh my God. So I wouldn't have known that. So this must be I must be resonating with so many people. When I say that and you read somebody writing about your favorite ice cream, you're going to keep reading that person because they understand you, And what happened over time is people would email me and say it seems like you're reading my mind. How do you know what I'm thinking? And that's how they trust you. And then that's how people believe that you can help them, because I know them so deeply that they trust that I can help them.
Yeah, it's so great that you've been able to make that connection and get into people's heads, and really understand them. I think that's what a lot of people are lacking. That is such a valuable asset, because it translates into your copy, it translates into the products you create, it translates into so much of your business. One thing I also want to go back to, you mentioned, is that at one point it sounds like you connected with folks to some sort of group, where you're kind of bouncing ideas off of each other. You mentioned you ran the idea by a group of folks, and they said you need to reposition the website from the menu versus the results. Was that some sort of, I guess I'm just curious to know, was that some sort of group that you reached out to or you created for yourself? And the reason why I'm asking is I feel like so many women are trying to do it alone and they don't ask for help. And I think having that extra help outside of just what's running in your brain is so crucial. So can you talk a little bit about at what point did you decide in your business that if that was the case, that I needed to create a community for myself of other maybe like-minded entrepreneurs to start really having that feedback or that accountability?
So this idea started like brimming in my mind when my daughter was 9 months old, because that's when I lost the weight. And that's when everyone, a little like around 9 months or 10 months old, that's when I had started losing weight and everyone was asking me what I was doing. And so I like had all these different, like I started documenting my recipes and creating a recipe book. That was what the first thing I did. And I literally spent a year writing a recipe book, like in my kitchen, like recording recipes and having my husband take pictures. And then at the end of the year, I was like, that's when I started doing research and I started asking people, would you use a weight loss recipe book? And like really the honest answers I got was, yeah, I would use it, probably try one recipe and then not go to it again, which is what a lot of us do. It's like you just check out one or two things and then the book goes on the shelf or it goes in some folder and you forget about it. So that's when I realized like this wasn't the right thing I just spent a year working on. And I need to do something because I don't know how to like get this out to the world. I've never done this before. So then I invested in a course. I mean, it's called Zero to Launch. That's what gave me this structure of like identifying an audience first, then creating a product and doing really deep research along the way. And without that, I would have been probably still going in circles like I was that first year before I put my website up. So with this program, it wasn't even just like a community. It was like a community of people who believed in themselves enough to actually invest their time and money into something. And so that's what propelled me forward. And that's how I was able to put a website up really quickly, grow my audience, start making money within 6 months after that. And I mean, I'm like more than made my money back on that investment. It's like a tiny little portion of everything. So it's so worth it. And I've also found like along the way, there's been other things I've invested in from a lot of different perspectives. Like, for example, I invested in a networking coach who she helped me like learn how to create really deep relationships with influencers. And through that, I got featured on like a Fox News story, through someone and it was just an honest, genuine relationship I created. And the person happened to be able to get me onto Fox News. So, but I wouldn't have known how to do that without hiring someone. I just don't know. So I think sometimes just knowing that you don't know everything, and then it also takes money to help you learn those things, because like free stuff is only going to get you so far. And then just believing that when you pay for something, it will help you. I think it makes all the difference.
Yeah. And I think it's James Wedmore who says that, the transformation is in the transaction. Sometimes just the purchase of it, because you have to make that investment, a financial investment, that's where the transformation occurs, because you've committed, you've said, okay, I have this idea for this recipe book, but now that I'm actually putting money behind it by either investing in a course or whatever it might be, you're like, okay, I'm really committing to this idea, and that kind of elevates you. And so I agree with you. And I talk about this a lot, is that we get stuck in this DIY, I call it the DIY epidemic, where we're so used to kind of doing it ourselves or getting the free version of the software or just getting the opt-in. And, and that stuff only takes you so far. But to make that commitment of, okay, and it is an investment. And I think people are afraid of spending money for good reason, but it's a business. And there are certain times you need to make that business decision to make that investment. And it's going to cost money, but hopefully you're spending money to then make more money down the road. So I love that you recognize that early on, and you were very intentional about where you made those investments and to then see your return on those. So good lesson for folks. So Figure out where you're going to, where you need to make those investments, and don't be afraid to spend money. Okay. What's the future for you? Where are we at today now? We're here, 2017. What are things looking like? What's on the horizon?
Well, so now I have a 8-week program, like I mentioned before, called Spice Yourself Skinny. And in this program, I help women melt their fat away using delicious natural spices. And women have lost up to 22 pounds in my 8-week program. And I'm still surprised by it. But what I do is I teach them how to use these natural spices along with whole, real foods so that it's actually something that's sustainable. And the way I do it is really really all my learnings from my coaching, which I did for a year and a half, coaching women one-on-one. And then I incorporated it into my group programs. Now I can coach each cycle. I coach about 100 women at a time now. So 100 women are in my program at a time. And so I've been able to coach all of them just because I learned so much while I was doing my one-on-one coaching. So this is a program I've launched it already. I'm about to launch my fourth round of it. And I came up with the concept. It worked really well. So instead of creating a different product, I just wanted to perfect this product and just keep going with it. And when I say perfect, I mean getting it to where it was really better, I was improving it, but then at some point saying, okay, it's good enough. But there's every reason to keep launching it because there's so many women that I still have to reach. I mean, it's not like I reached everyone with the first launch. So that was really something that helped me realize I just need to keep launching this, reaching more women. And that's what I'm planning to do, is to launch it 4 times in 2017 and really just help transform, hundreds of women and help them lose a lot of weight and continue a lifestyle of losing weight. So it's this group program. That's really what my major focus is, Spice Yourself Skinny, and growing that and scaling it and reaching as many people and helping transform their bodies and their lifestyles.
Do you have any tips for people about how they can, launch and relaunch, kind of any major lessons that you've learned as you've gone through this process? And I know that's a loaded question, but, just maybe a few takeaways for folks, because I do agree that if you have a signature course, I think it's best to, continue perfecting it and relaunching. Perfecting meaning you don't just create and then put it up and then go create something else. Just really, if you have something like an egg in the hand, or bird in the hand, whatever the saying is, you keep working on it. And so what have you learned that you kind of maybe wish you knew earlier, or that you would tell a girlfriend who's kind of in the same space?
Yeah. There's so much. So I'm going to focus on, I think, just a couple things that really stand out. And one is that when you're launching a course, sometimes the course works and sometimes it doesn't. So before I did Spice Yourself Skinny, I tried to launch my first group program. I called it Food to Be Fit, which it was basically about how to get skinny without exercise, which this food actually, it does help you do. You don't have to exercise, especially in the first 8 weeks, to lose the weight. People were really interested in that. So I just launched this course called Food to Be Fit. I created a sales page. I purchased a logo. I created 2 weeks of emails and did a huge webinar, and nobody bought that program. Not one person. Mm-hmm. And I was it really was really hard to take that after spending all that time. But what I learned is that I needed to, first of all, I didn't go about it the right way. I didn't research the way I had before. I didn't do my research. It was all in my head that I created that, because I thought, women want to lose weight without exercise, so let me create Food to Be Fit. But it just didn't click. And so I went out there, I did more research, I read my articles that were really popular, and I realized that spices were the things that it was really standing out about my method. And so that's where I evolved my name and the way that I approached the program and called it Spice Yourself Skinny. And I really focused on the benefits of the spices. And that in my first launch, then I sold 51 spots in my first launch. And it was over a $20,000 launch. And so that's where it's kind of just keep trying and also understand what you did wrong. If something happened, it doesn't mean it's over. Because at that moment when I didn't sell any, I thought it was over for me. I was like, this is too hard. How do I do this? But it's going back and seeing, okay, well, now I know what doesn't work. How can I change it and make it work? At least I learned something through this process.
Yeah, it's not wasted effort. I mean, you have the content, but it's not wasted effort. And I think it's important to go back and always, whether it's successful or not successful, analyze the data and look at the numbers and all that stuff. Or whether it's the numbers or not, but just take a kind of debrief session for yourself and see okay, what worked really well? Where can I improve? Don't just take it as the numbers didn't come in, the sales didn't come in. There's value still there because you went through that exercise and you learned something. Maybe you learned a faster way of doing something. Maybe you're really good at, I don't know, creating webinar slides. People love your webinars and people love to show up, but maybe they're not ready to buy or whatever. There's an opportunity there. I love that advice.
Yeah. And I can share something else too, if you'd like.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, really that's like looking at it as a learning experience, not like a failure, just looking at everything as a learning experience. So another thing I think that's really that I learned is that, where I was getting my subscribers from was really key. And this is something I don't think a lot of people talk about, but there's a lot of talk about like the number of the size of your list, but there's also another dimension, and that's the quality of your list. And it's like, how do you bring people to your list that are actually going to become buyers versus just people that came for your free gift and then never open your emails after that? And what I found out is through my launches, I did start investing in Facebook ads, and Facebook ads did do quite a bit for my list size. Like they doubled my list size, and I had Facebook ads that were converting at really low amounts. But the thing is that when people bought my course, I asked them where they heard about me from, and only 25% or so heard about me from Facebook. 75% of people had heard me, they had read an article I had written, or they had heard me on a podcast, or they had heard me as a testimonial for one of the programs I had taken and I had done well in. So people like really connected with me a lot when they found me in these warmer leads versus like cold Facebook leads. So then I started changing my strategy of how I was getting subscribers. And I'm not the typical fan of Facebook ads. Like I think Facebook ads are one layer of your strategy. I do use them, but it's not like the main and only strategy. I actually started doing some live speaking events, because if someone hears me speak, they are so much more likely to trust me and to probably want to join or sign up for something that I offer because they know me and they trust me a lot more. And also, doing things like just like podcasts, writing lots of guest posts and write lots of articles. That's like where you become an expert. It's like you're not just running an ad, but you're actually becoming an expert in your field. And so I think that's key to kind of to focus on. It's not just the numbers. It's like, how are you collecting people? How are you bringing people that are actually going to be your buyers?
Yeah, it's like the quality of the calorie, Calories aren't bad. It's if you're having, bad calories that are empty calories versus, good quality calories. And yeah, I think it's so true. It's like kind of really understanding, understanding it in terms of asking yourself, is this a cold, warm lead? How can you generate opportunities for people to, know, like, and trust you? I think that's really smart, the way you've approached it, where you've actually gone through and actually asked the question and like let the data speak for itself. And the data has said the warmer, where they've interacted with you in some other capacity, that's where they're more likely to buy. All good stuff, my friend. Okay, wow. We have been talking for quite a while. So thank you so much for being here. I always love to wrap up these interviews by asking, the one thing I know for sure is, and I ask you to fill in the blank.
The one thing I know for sure is that if you have a goal and you create a plan to reach it, you can do it.
Done. Simple.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here. I know you have given us a special recipe that I'm going to link in the show notes. And so I'm going to share where everybody can get that in just a second. But just wanted to thank you so much for being here, for taking time out of your, what is obviously a very busy schedule. Thank you for being here, for sharing your story and all your successes.
Oh, thank you for having me, Annette. It's been such a pleasure. And thanks for your really insightful questions.
Awesome. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed this episode with Nagina. I know I got a lot out of it. It really served as a great reminder that nobody gets it right out of the gate. Business is so much about putting yourself out there, putting your ideas out there, about constantly testing it, talking to your customers, talking to your market, and then improving. It's about making incremental improvements until you get closer and closer to the results that you're expecting. And I think Nagina's experience with her launch is a great example of that. For those of you who are curious about Nagina and her weight loss program, she's put together a freebie for Office Talk listeners, and it is a golden fat-burning smoothie recipe. And you can get that over on the show notes at AnnetteStepanian.com/podcast/43, or you can head on over to her website, masalabody.com/Office Talk. So my friends, I hope you keep on keeping on, and I can't wait to talk to you later.